Scarborough Borough Council meeting. It is 7:39 p.m. Council met in executive session prior to this meeting to discuss pending litigation as well as matters regarding our commercial property and tenants and leases and such. Mr. Metrick, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Weisford? Here. Ms. Rickards?
Here.
Antonopoulos?
Here.
Mr. Nixon?
Here.
Mr. McGreevy?
Here.
Ms. Tevlin Moffett?
Present.
Mayor Andrea Deutsch?
Here.
Assistant Manager Matt West?
Present.
President Aaron Newberg?
Here. Thank you. I have no comments at this time. Hopefully we can move this meeting along very quickly because we will have another executive session later this evening to discuss leases and also to discuss personnel matters. So, and I also would like at some point, if we can move things along, to discuss sort of the rules and way we interact together, as well as some of our long-term plans for some of our larger committees. And so we can, have a sense of priority. It's something that we could just spend 5 minutes on every month. I think we'd get there in about 5 or 6 years, which would be fine for government. Ms. Mayor, do you have any comments?
Just very briefly. I know the weather's been beautiful. I put out on social media, I want to put out at the general meeting. In the event we have inclement weather, specifically snow, you're required to clear your sidewalks within 24 hours of snowfall. It's for everybody's safety. We do have some older people who, for various reasons, are physically unable to clear their sidewalks. I'm looking for potential volunteers, young people, old people, anybody who's willing to pitch in and clear a sidewalk or two. If you have that ability, please let me know so I can keep a list of people available for residents who may need a little help. Other than that, we have a couple new businesses that are looking to open in our downtown. We're very excited that they'll be opening soon, probably within a couple weeks, a new coffee shop and a new faux restaurant. And that should be happening within the next few weeks. So that's it.
Thank you very much. All right, feasibility analysis. Mr. Metrick, you want to hand that off?
I don't have any team to introduce.
Yeah, sure. We have a presentation.
Introduce
Mr. West.
Yeah. Project that the borough has been working on along with DVRPC and a consultant that was hired through DVRPC's project. What we are going to be seeing tonight is a presentation on the feasibility study of a project that would include the borough purchasing and retrofitting all of our street lights to LEDs. And so representing the consultant is the consultant himself, Mike Fuller.
Okay, great. Hi.
Do I need to?
Nope, you're good. You're good. So tonight we're going to talk about the feasibility study that we put together, and we'll show you how this fits into the whole program. And really, this is just the first step of a multi-step program run by DVRPC. So it's called the RSLPP. So we have a bunch of
for anyone
letters
who
out
might
there.
not know, can you just tell everyone what that acronym stands for?
Regional Streetlight Procurement Program.
Yeah.
Yep. So basically, you have a more
No, DVRCP.
Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission.
Yeah,
Yes. So you have a more detailed feasibility study that came in your packet, but you this presentation just summarizes the key points for it. So in lieu of time, I'm going to pass over a couple kind of placeholder structure slides here. So why would you want to consider upgrading to LED? First of all, LED is not some new technology. You're not jumping to some cutting edge technology. If you were to do any new construction project, it would be all LED. And it's been that way for many years. It's just that we have this huge infrastructure of installed base of old technology with our roadway fixtures. So the good news is that there's good opportunities and savings to be had by making this upgrade. So generally, you're going to reduce energy consumption by 50 to 75%. You're going to reduce your maintenance costs by 50 to 80%. And LEDs generally are more controllable, so they perform better. We get more light onto the areas where you want it, less light into the areas where you don't. So things like light trespass, getting into people's yards, dark skies concerns go away. All the fixtures we use have cutoff, so all light goes down, none goes up. Except for maybe some decorative lights where it has to go in all directions. But generally, the roadway lights are all cutoff fixtures. So there's lots of benefits associated with this. And this flyer on the right is something that we provided also that goes through all the benefits and is a good primer on the program overall. So I'll just summarize this for you. Generally, DVRPC saw that many communities weren't doing these types of upgrades because they didn't have the resources in place, whether it be technical resources, technical design resources, or financing resources, or project management, or they felt that they couldn't do a good enough job or leverage, their purchasing power with just a single municipality. So DVRPC stepped in and said, well, we'll bring all these resources together and put together a turnkey program. And really, obviously, we get your input, you're overseeing everything as we go through the process, but you really don't have to, do the work yourself. The program is doing that for you. So we brought all that together. They selected a design professional to kind of manage this entire process. That's my firm, Keystone Lighting Solutions. We, by the way, were the technical advisor to the first round of this program over the last 3 years, so we've been living and breathing this for many years and know all the goals and how we want to make this most effective. So let's talk about the results that we achieved in round one, which started over 3 years ago. Over 35 municipalities exactly, have upgraded over 25,000 streetlights from old technology to LED. We upgraded over 5,500 traffic signal lamps and controls. And after the projects were paid for, there was an additional net savings of $15.3 million in operating cost savings from this project over a 20-year forecasted period. A very sustainable solution. Obviously, the reduction in kilowatt hours is driving your energy savings, but that also translates to 5,500 metric tons of CO2 that's avoided put into the environment every year. So a very sustainable solution on top of everything. So for round two, we have 27 municipalities in the feasibility phase, which I'll explain the different phases in just a moment. And that represents about 15,000 streetlights. And we expect that number to grow as we add on traffic signals and other types of fixtures that people want to include in the design phase. We anticipate similar to better results than we had in round one. It was highly successful, but we learned some things, and we're going to take those opportunities to improve the program in round two. This is how the program is structured. We're in the feasibility phase, which is on the left, phase one. This is a data-driven exercise, so we've done no audits, we've done no real design. We're just taking information that is either on PICO bills or information that you've provided, and we're just doing a data analysis, trying to give you an assessment of the opportunity that's there. So you can decide if you want to go to the next phase, which is phase two, which we call project development, but it's really the design phase of the project. And that's where we do the field audits, the design, the procurement, and we pull it all together into a final project specification that you can then consider and approve, which would take you on to the construction phase, which is phase three. My firm, basically, we were hired by DVRPC to do phase one, and then for phases 2 through 4, we would actually work directly for you. Okay, so there'd be a direct relationship there. So we would stay on as the project manager in phase 3, and then phase 4 is where we verify the savings, make sure that PICO's updated your bill correctly, and just kind of project closeout activities. So let's talk about your feasibility study. This is just a picture of what you have in your packet, but very simplified. Our best guess, which I think it's really pretty accurate, is we feel that you have and you guys had some good records on what you have in your street lighting inventory right now. So there's 315 existing Cobra head fixtures of varying wattages. We don't show you all the wattages here, it's in your feasibility study. And basically they're all going to get upgraded to LED Cobra heads. The fixture head comes off, the new LED head goes on to the existing arm, the existing wiring stays in place, so it's a really quick retrofit. We had one installer in round one who had a technician that could do 40 of these in a day. Now that's like the high end, the average is more like 20, but it's a very quick process to go through. So for example, for 315 fixtures, they're only going to be here a couple weeks to upgrade all of these fixtures, so it's very quick. Of course, if they see bad wiring, when they go through it, they will fix the wiring. They're required by code to do that. And if they In the audit, we'll actually identify if there's bad pulls or bad arms, things like that, and we can factor that into the design price or the project costs as we go through. Okay. We also think that you have 70 of these decorative fixtures for your streetscape project that you did. Unfortunately, we feel that they may not be on the PICO bill. So they need to get added to the PICO bill, which is going to be an added cost. But the good news is that you're going to see, we modeled that in.
Whose bill are they all? Everyone's one.
Thank you so
Somewhere,
much,
I don't
Fred
know.
Bush. I appreciate the generosity to this community. Thank you.
So, and this absolutely happens consistently. The PICO bill is never accurate. The good news is that when you look at all the financials of this project and the feasibility assessment we did, it's all still very attractive. And it's primarily because you're doing a buyback from PICO. You actually don't own the fixtures currently, which is not the what's standard. Usually municipalities have already bought back those fixtures. You have to go through that process. There's a cost to it, but there's huge benefits to it also. And so even by adding these in, which is kind of an additional cost for the whole project, you just have considerable savings still, and you'll see those numbers in a moment. So we did model that those have to be added into the inventory. But you have 70 of those, and right now we're looking at some, actually some retrofit kits from that manufacturer. You've done one of these so far, and we actually think we might be able to lower the wattage a little bit from that manufacturer, but there are retrofit kits from the original manufacturer, which makes me feel very comfortable because they know their fixture and they know that their kit will work appropriately in there. So that's what we're assuming at this stage. And obviously all this gets explored in much more detail in this design phase. We also have 2 of these fixtures, so not worth spending too much time there. You have 44 of these area lighting fixtures, just generally parking lot fixtures, basketball court fixtures, building area lighting. So those will all get upgraded with similar style LED fixtures. Okay. And then you have 30 existing traffic signal lamps. So 30 is actually the number of lamps. So you only have one intersection. So, but that's, and there's some controls also, or pedestrian signals. But those would all get upgraded to LED versions also. So let's look at the financial results. This is a little busy, but I'll help you through this quickly. Basically, on the left side of this chart, you have the energy savings. Or you have the savings column. So you have energy savings and maintenance savings, and those add up to your total operating cost savings. So it's a little confusing. Most communities show considerable maintenance savings, but you've not been paying a contractor to maintain them. You've been paying PICO. And actually, they charge you a lot of money to do that through the energy bill. So your energy savings are escalated, but your maintenance savings are reduced. So that's why it looks the way that it does. But overall, you're getting, as you can see, $48,000 annually in savings. Okay, so that's an annual figure. Then going to the right, we have our buyback costs. So I split it up between the overhead and the decoratives, but essentially you've got $6,800, $6,900 to buy back your fixtures from PICO. Fortunately, they depreciate it. So it's a relatively low number to buy those back. Then you have your traditional project costs, you have your material costs, install costs, KLS fees. Those are our fees for phases 2 through 4. So that includes all the audits, design, procurement, includes project management and the closeout activities. Then you have program costs. Those are DVRPC's costs. They're recouping their costs for running the entire program. We're carrying a cost contingency of 10%. And then you can see interest costs. So we're assuming you're going to use the financing package that we can help you put in place. That a lot of communities look at that number and they're like, well, we have some funds that we could apply to the project. So either we could buy down that loan to a smaller amount, or we could even pay for the project. That's something we can figure out in phase 2. You do get rebates from PICO for doing energy efficient upgrades. So we will lock all those dollars in actually before the end of March if we go on to phase 2. So your total project costs, once you get the deduct for rebates, is $209,000. And the payback with financing is 4.3 years. Incredibly attractive. All the buyback projects we do have these low paybacks. You know, our typical payback is like 9, 10, 11 years for most municipalities that aren't doing a buyback. So you're in an advantageous position. And we did factor in maintenance costs for, you're now going to have to hire a third party or have some resource to do maintenance.
So in other words, you're saying in 4.3 years, this is in a cost neutral situation?
Yeah.
Then the next year we're ahead?
Yes, and we even take it a step further with the financing approach, which you're going to see on the next slide. We actually make sure that the savings offset the loan payment. So you're not coming out of pocket for anything. You basically are going to use your utility savings to offset the loan.
Debt payment?
Yeah.
So this is nothing but this is green and green, cash and the
Yes,
environment.
right, it is. Yep. So, so basically, and there's some notes here, but generally that's what the project looks like. It's very attractive relative to all the other projects we're looking at. I think there's 7 buyback communities in this round with similar types of paybacks. So here's what it looks like in a cash flow basis, so this will answer that question right there. I'm going to just scoot it a little bit this way. So in the upper left corner, you can see all the project costs. You have to finance $209,000. You don't get the benefit of the rebate in the finance because it comes separately as a check in year 1. So you're actually financing a little higher amount than we showed on the previous slide. But you can see energy cost savings of $49,000. You know, you actually have a little bit of a loss of maintenance savings. Those combine for $48,000 annually in the operating cost savings. And you can see we went with a 5-year loan, which allowed us to have loan payments of $45,000. So your savings are offsetting your loan payments. So you actually got a positive cash flow from year 1.
So this improves our bottom line right out of the gate.
Out of the gate, the goal is to break even out of the gate. The rebate actually kicks it up a little bit in year 1. But in the lower right corner, you can see over 20 years the net value of the project is $750,000. The only other thing I want to mention is just from a timing perspective, the loan package doesn't go in place until you decide to go to construction, but phase 2 occurs before that. So you may have to pay out of pocket for the design fees, but what you can do is include those in your financing package and then reimburse your budget. So that's why we show it kind of coming. You have an $8,300 payment in the design period, which Matt and I talked about. That's probably more like April, May, June that would be paid over a couple invoices, so that'd be split up, but it's not going to occur immediately. And then you could reimburse yourself in the construction phase once the loan package is in place. Okay. And then just to wrap up, I've already gone through this. These are all the things that you get with phase 2, which is your next decision to make. This is just a representation of, I do want to mention the audit that you get is a GIS-based audit. So you're going to have the location of every single fixture, you're going to have photos of it, you're going to have 20 plus attributes of what that fixture is. It's a great inventory asset for you to have. You know, you're going to, if you go ahead with the project, we use it for design and other purposes, but you can use it for other reasons for many, many years. And you can bring it into you guys actually do have a GIS system, so we can give you the information in a format that you can import it directly into your system to create a new layer. So you get that. So your next steps, again, you're only deciding whether you're going on to phase 2. And to do that, there's a resolution that indicates you're going on phase 2. And then there's a contract with KLS, but again, DVRPC already put us through a competitive process. So you're piggybacking off of their procurement effort. And basically that's what that design contract says. So it's a pretty simple design contract and just points to the bigger contract that DVRPC has with us. And so that's what I got for you.
Great,
Thank you so much.
Questions from council members?
I have a question for Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
A long time ago, you and I were on a conference call with some folks at PICO, if you remember that, regarding the number, and Tom, who's now on the EAC, brought to our attention the number of lights that not only were out, but that some streets have street lights that are, some streets have only 2 street lights, some have 4. We don't have a particular rhyme or reason as to how many street lights are on. what street, where, why. Some of us on Wayne Avenue get a lot of ambient light from Montgomery Avenue, but then the folks back on Conway have always said, like, we need more light. Is this part of the plan? Is this part of the discussion we're having? Maybe I don't need 4 streetlights on Wayne Avenue. Maybe they need more on Conway.
I think, Mike, this is a feasibility, a inventory of what we have and an in-kind replacement of matching LED fixture that would emit the same amount of light that roughly is out there right now. Is that correct?
It is, but the general design goal is to meet or exceed what you have, so in a one-for-one type replacement. But almost every community in round 1 would bring certain key things that are special to your community that they would say, hey, we need another fixture here because we've had pedestrian issues here, or so we will take, the police may come in and say, hey, we've got a security area, so every community makes a few of those adjustments. What we do in phase 2, this is not like a fresh design like it's new construction, so we're not designing to some illumination standard, but we're designing to meet or exceed. But what we really focus on in phase 2 is standardizing. So as much as possible, we try to make sure that similar streets have similar type of illumination. Now, if Pico poles are a little closer, or we can't fix that, the Pico poles are the Pico poles and they are where they are. So we can't make a perfect situation, but if we get feedback from the municipality, we can try to work that into the design to a certain extent.
Can you name a few of the local municipalities that have done this, in case our residents want to go and see what they look like?
Yeah, so I've been around to most of the communities, so I don't know exactly all the ones that are your neighbors. We've had Newtown Township, Newtown Square. I'm trying to think of the ones that are closer here. Darby has done it, not as close, but Upper Dublin, Springfield. That one sheet that I referenced, do you have it in your packet?
It's in the.
Yeah, there's a list in that.
We'll find a good one and we'll call it out.
Yeah, but there, generally there were very few south of here. There was only a handful, but most of them, we had like 9 in Bucks and a similar number in Montgomery, and Chester had quite a few, fewer in Delaware, but yeah. But they're all around you to go look at samples. We actually did trial installations in the first round. We don't need to do that for the second round because we have 25,000 street lights out there for you to go look at. So, and when we get into the design phase and consider things like what look or what color temperature, because you have some options there, we can point you to, okay, Phoenixville did a warmer color and Newtown Square did a white, or pure white. So we can direct you to example areas.
That was my question.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we good? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you coming out. All right, let's move on to number 6A, 838 to 840 Montgomery Avenue, minor subdivision.
Hi, where would you like us?
At the hot spot, right there, yeah.
Fair enough. Just to stick this so I don't jump on the
I
ground.
think all the council members have seen, all the written information. But for the benefit of the public.
Sure,
it's a brief
sure.
overview.
So my name is Amy Farrell. I'm with Kaplan Stewart. We're the attorneys for the developers for this property. This is about as simple as it gets. This is literally a removal of a line from a plan. These are 2 properties that are next to each other. It's actually a twin. They have existed like this since the beginning of time. It's 838 to 840 Montgomery Avenue. I think, as a lot of you recall, there was a pizza shop for many, many years on the ground floor
The former
of that building. Yes, Sunvalley Pizza. There was some fire damage. Prior owner decided to sort of leave it as it was, and the building was sold. The current owners are in the process of renovating that building, improving it cosmetically on the exterior and the interior, and doing a little bit of work on the 2nd and 3rd floors with respect to the dwelling units that are up there. During that process, it was made, we became aware that a prior owner opened up the 1st floor wall between the 2 sides of that twin. So if you'd ever been there to the pizza shop, you could walk interiorly from one side to the other. That's fine from a building perspective. From a code perspective, it becomes problematic because it was done without permits, obviously, so we need to go back through and do all of that. Because of the way the building codes work, this building now functionally is a single unit for purposes of building codes. So what we want to do is remove that interior lot line, make it one building, one property, like it really has already been functioning for as long as it's been functioning. In the process of doing that, there's no exterior work other than cosmetic work to the elevations and some walkway repair to make it a little easier to get into the apartment units. But it does allow us, just by the virtue of removing that lot line, to bring this property more into conformity with your zoning code. And that's because currently each of these properties as individual side-by-side properties don't meet several of your zoning requirements. So as soon as we remove that line, the property is automatically more conforming than it was before. That's the full extent of what's happening here. So there's no land development, which means there's no overall saldo review. There are no requirements associated with that. There was some confusion, I think, early on when the application was submitted as to whether or not there was land development. So the borough engineer issued a review letter with a lot of saldo-related comments in it. We've since had a conversation with Sean, with your solicitor, and with the zoning officer, who all agree that that was premature. We're not at a point where we're doing any land development. So we really are looking just for a simple approval on the removal of the lot line that allows them to kind of clean up the area a little bit and make it function the way that it really should be functioning and has been for many, many years.
Any questions?
I have a question. Does the lot go through all the way to Iona Avenue? Is it Montgomery to Iona, or is there a separate parcel?
There is a separate parcel back there, but they do
But is
all
the tailor
function.
shop?
Yes, the tailor shop is
Okay.
on its own parcel. That is also owned by these property owners. So all of that shared parking that's been back there forever will continue to function the way that it has.
We're not joining that parcel with these. This is just the two.
Correct, it's
Okay.
just the two that face onto Montgomery
Thank you.
Avenue.
Very good.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, thank you so
Great,
much.
thank you.
You brought us a simple one.
I promise it was going to be quick.
If only they were all that.
Let's move to 100 Forest Avenue.
Whole entourage here. A pizza lot joint? Jeez. That's quite a crew for a pizza joint. Yeah. There's good pizza. There was. I missed something. Yeah.
I don't know where you went.
Like your pizza.
Council nights are frozen pizza nights the next day.
That's a great story. Oh, thanks so
Yeah, that's all right. If anything, we could just have someone hold it and just sort of tilt it. I mean, we brought the bidders. We have 11 by 17s for tables. The public wants to see We're already playing. I haven't started yet.
Listen, this is Narberth.
I'm not getting off to a good start here.
All right. All right.
Everybody has their paperwork? Gentlemen?
Good evening. My name is Bob Careless. I'm with Cozen O'Connor. I'm representing the applicant for 100 Forest and also for 203 Haverford. We're going to do 100 Forest first, but to the extent you have questions too about both, we can address both. We handed out, does everyone have a copy of, we handed 2 sheets to you, the existing plan set and the proposed improvement plan. As council is aware, we are here tonight on a tentative sketch. We're doing a presentation. As council is well aware, more detail, significantly more detail will come at the preliminary and final plan stage. But we've been before your planning commission twice. Your planning commission has unanimously recommended approval with conditions. Likewise, the county planning commission has reviewed this plan and has recommended approval with conditions. Conditions largely being that we meet tentative plan requirements as set forth by your code. So we took those comments, those review letters, and the plan you have now is a approvable plan, in our opinion. And I'll add, this is a code compliant plan from our standpoint. And by that I mean we are not here seeking zoning relief. We don't intend to seek any kind of relief. This is a per code plan in terms of parking, area bulk, use, etc. Just before I go any further, I just wanted to introduce some people that I have here with me tonight. To the extent you guys have questions, we're happy to answer anything you have. I have Dan Donnelly standing up here with me. He's representing the applicant. I also have Tim Rubin here, who's also representing the applicant. Eric Layton is here on behalf of our architect, Cecil Baker. And I have two gentlemen in the back there from Momney Engineers, Will Daggett and Chris Dockton. So if I could, I just want to walk you through the sketch here, and then we can field any questions. The proposal is for a 3-story mixed-use building here, with the first floor being retail approximately. We're reflecting 1,930 square feet, approximately 1,470 square feet of that would be the retail space. Obviously, we're accounting for the lobby entrance and whatnot here. 4 units each on the 2nd and 3rd floor dwelling units. Haverford Avenue and Forest Avenue here. We have a 22-foot wide driveway entrance on Forest Avenue here, which would lead you into an enclosed parking area where we're showing 5 spaces here. Also a 6th space in the back. Minimum parking under your code is 5 spaces. We're providing 6. Also in the back here, we are showing the trash enclosure. Note we have bike storage, which we discussed with your planning commission, and we're providing there. You also note up here that the site right now is 100% impervious. We are adding pervious pavers up here to add some, some stormwater control, and also you'll note the approximate stormwater location there. With that, I don't have anything else in terms of an overview. Dan, do you have anything you wanted to add before we start taking questions?
No, I think Bob's covered it well. I guess it's really if you had questions.
This is on the site of Candace Fitness, formerly the gas station?
That's correct.
It is, yes.
Thanks.
Yes.
Just,
I guess my only question, I know that you guys did some borings for DEP. I didn't know, and this is a little bit outside of the tentative sketch plan, how that timeline affects, what the timeline of construction might be for this to move forward.
We can proceed with the construction. So I guess we've done both a phase 1 and a phase 2 environmental investigation. There were some prior investigations that were never completed. I guess we've also talked with DEP through our consultant, and what they're doing is they're doing their delineation study right now. And this is a project that DEP has been looking to close for a number of years. And because of that, all they really want is a delineation study to come in. That delineation study, they'll either approve it, they might ask for modifications, but all it really does is set up, it generally sets you up for 8 quarters of testing. After 8 quarters of testing, generally what you'll do is get under the Act 2 clearance rules, you'll go to no further action letter.
I guess my question is, you anticipate that to be a parallel track?
It will be a parallel track. You can do your construction while that process is being done with.
Understood.
Just as an understanding, and I think it came up with the Planning Commission, we're anticipating that we're going to put a barrier on this site. So not only do you have existing asphalt, things of that nature, but we're anticipating that we'll do a vapor intrusion barrier.
how many units are you going to have on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floors?
4 units on the 2nd, 4 units on the 3rd floor.
Yeah,
And retail, all retail
Yes.
on the 1st, yeah.
So 8 apartments.
That's correct.
Any other questions?
I guess more of a comment. So one of the concerns was how this will
really affect the pedestrian sightline. Like,
Well,
any of the materials that we use help that thinking, like, are you using glass or your landscaping sills? I mean, the setbacks are the setbacks at this point. But is there any consideration in your design structure that will take into consideration that comment?
I think it's part of the,
Fair, come on.
I think it's part of designing the building, you know, being that it is retail and being consistent with the scale and the fabric, pardon me, of the rest of the block. We would be looking to have glass. I mean, that's, I think what the retailer is going to be looking for. I know there was a comment about chamfering the corner of the building.
Yes.
We will look at that, but I think there'll be a decent amount of transparency as well.
That's great. That is a heavily walkable area.
it's required under a form-based code.
Go ahead, Sean, say that.
Alley, Michelle signed up.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We can move to item C. Oh, wait.
We have you for a second one.
Yeah. Turn around.
203 Haverford Ave.
It's on the other side.
It just flips out.
No, we get you guys the 2 or 3 applicants. Will come up.
So this is existing, this is new.
No, it comes back to the,
No, that was, yeah.
a picture of it?
I would love to see somebody really put up like. I wonder why. Like Colossus put up a 2-bedroom cottage.
Just make it. Two, three, sorry. Turn around.
Look back. My resolution really get into the details.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you. Same team, same drill. You have in front of you 11 by 17s of an existing site plan and then also the proposed improvements for the public. This is, now we are on the other side of the corner on Haverford, the former site of Ricklands. The proposal here, again, 3-story mixed-use building with first floor entirely retail, approximately 4,325 square feet of retail on this one, a little bit bigger. We do have 2 lots here which would be consolidated here. Second floor would be about 12 units, third floor 4 units. If I have is that correct?
8 and 8.
Oh, it's 8 and 8 now. Okay, excuse me, I apologize. 8 and 8 on each one. And then here you see this is a story number on Haverford Avenue and Essex Avenue. We do have garage parking in the rear of the property here. Again, a 22-foot wide entrance here for the entrance to the parking. So it has the lobby entrance and the proposed staircase. And then you'll note here that there's the stormwater management location. We are reflecting some proposed landscaping in the back. You will, with the next submission, have a landscaping plan in addition to elevations. And then, again, with this plan, we've been to the Planning Commission twice on this one. Unanimous approval, recommendation approval, subject to conditions. Same thing with the County Planning Commission. I neglected to mention on the Forest Avenue one, the borough engineer has also reviewed both plans and made comments. And we will continue to work with the borough engineer, but we are working to satisfy comments. And by the 20th, when this is an action item, all comments should be resolved. And also we will work to resolve the comments that we made on saldo and zoning requirements for the next phase of development. That was Mr. Malloy, now we'll work with Mr. Johnson here to get that done. So that, and again, that's just the only thing I wanted to direct your attention to. Again, we're showing bike storage here in the rear of the property. Again, an issue that the Planning Commission was pushing. So, so that's, we're happy to answer any questions you may have on this one.
see a sidewalk, and I guess if I'm reading this map correctly, you could walk from the roadway over to the building we just discussed. Right here?
This sidewalk here? Yes,
Right, and then out to Forest Avenue.
that's correct, yes.
Could you just point your under your head?
The sidewalk,
Help us get this. I'm not sure. Thank you for referring back. to
so it's
Forest.
basically bringing in the parking area.
It's not, we're not connecting forests, though. We're not connecting forests, that's the question.
Oh, no, we are not.
Where I see proposed
sorry.
landscape, that is not.
No, it's just.
The forest is, of course, all the way
Yeah,
over
we're not
here.
running all the way down the block.
But the parking number 6 of the previous buildings would really be at the eastern edge of this property.
And parking 6 will be right here.
Right, that's what I was looking for, thank you.
And in theory, you could walk between, you'd be trespassing on somebody's property, but in theory, you could.
Well, this is all the time.
Oh,
That's
Can
why-
I clarify, so the proposed landscape is currently asphalt? And what do you plan to do?
Well,
with the proposed landscape?
the existing condition here is the building, the old warehouse building
Okay,
is all in this area, basically follows this entire footprint. So there's no green area right now at all.
The only grass is on the lower left of one.
Yes.
They used to sell Christmas
Right,
trees.
Yes, there is some grass area here.
And it's not particularly,
So am I right, Michelle, and Mr. Careless, that on Essex, is that a Great Wall, or am I looking at retail on Essex?
On
Retail?
Essex,
Yeah,
I expect the storefronts will be here. There'll probably be some window line here. I'm not sure exactly. It depends on our design.
Yeah, I think if I could for a second, from a design perspective, I think the form-based code does require articulations and certain percentages of glazing. So yeah, the treatment would be consistent as storefront.
Okay.
Can you say more about the proposed landscape on Essex? Like, how big is that space? Is that an entryway there?
Yeah, this
Little area
this
here.
portion right here is where we're proposing the entry to the apartment
Okay.
on the second and third floor B. So there's an effort to make that a more formal entry.
And you'll see that in greater detail on that when we come back to you with the next submission.
I have a question that's well beyond the scope of your presentation today, but theoretically, if all your approvals and your solid approvals and everything go through, you have an idea in mind about looking ahead to construction. When would you be looking to construct these projects simultaneously? And I'm asking these questions because this is a small downtown, and this is going to be a major disruption. So I'm wondering if you can give us, and I think a lot of people are probably thinking, a lot of our residents are probably concerned about this, and our business owners. What scope of disruption are we talking about?
I don't think we're there to say that at this stage. However, point well taken, and we understand the community that we're in here. So I think at the next submission stage, we probably would be more prepared to address that concern. And so everyone is
Would you
fully-
anticipate doing these constructions simultaneously? I mean, is that typically a more efficient way to do it, or
Typically, yes, but, again, that's something we'll tackle. But yeah, typically those things, those are simultaneous constructions.
As I'm looking at these plans for both retail sites, it looks like there's no parking specified for the retail sites. It's all for the residential.
That's right. And that's per your code. I mean, there's an exemption under a certain threshold of your square footage for your retail space
Right.
that you don't need to provide parking.
Okay.
How many additional on-street spaces will this new plan create? Because it seems to pick up a lot of extra, you're picking up a lot of extra
We
street
haven't
on-street
laid it out
spaces.
yet, but we believe there's somewhere between a 3 and 4 car pickup on this site. Of course, it might have to set back a little on this turn, but I think you know the condition now where you have the different drive-in parking here. We think you'll be able to pick up somewhere between 3 and 4 spaces.
Any other questions from council members?
So, on Bob's point about parking, that's like the third rail of anything in Arbor.
So there's going to be 16 units in the whole building. And I see, we have 8 spots or 10 spots here and a 3 to 4 pickup.
That's right.
So that would, so that it's almost parking neutral if there's 1 car unit.
That almost, yeah. I mean, this is obviously under this code, you're in the 5A downtown, you're in a shared parking ratio. So we are parking per the code, but yeah, the pickups would be additional. We're not saying.
Oh, I'm just doing my own computation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
that's just a hot issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. All right, we'll go to 7A, Finance and Administration. Give a minute to his papers.
Sure, and I'll keep it brief unless anyone's dying for more details since we like to follow Aaron's lead on moving things. The first thing that we're looking at is we started to look at the volunteer firefighter tax credit. It's something that we haven't really had much time to kick around in committee yet, so I don't believe, the committee left it that at our next F&A meeting, we're going to review what work has been done, study it, and possibly bring something forward, but we'll have to see where we go with that.
Jim and I discussed, yeah.
Yeah, and then as far as, we're also looking into, we're working with staff to figure out a better way to work, a potentially better way to work with Rec Board. We've asked Sean and Matt to look at what charter, for lack of a better word, we have with respect to Rec Board, what we're telling them to do, what the staff feels that maybe would help improve giving guidance to Rec Board and working with us and integrating them into the functions of our new professional staff. And we just touched base on that for the first time at the last meeting, so we don't have any data to bring forward at present. So if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them, but they're just the 2 projects we're working on early in the new year here.
I'd like to propose that we have that conversation with the Rec Board. I know that the Infrastructure Committee would have specific ideas and guidelines for how we'd like to engage with the Rec Board. We can discuss that now if you'd like. But I think there's certainly a need for the Infrastructure Committee to have that relationship prime.
I think we had a conversation earlier about sort of under this new committee structure, how do boards and commissions line up? Yeah. We had sort of a reporting structure historically. That's something I have not yet had a chance to really.
I think I can nip this one in the bud though, because I don't disagree with anything you just said. We're not even close to where you're at yet. We want Sean in the office we left it that we would like Sean in the office to look at what has been done in the past with Rec Board and to engage with Rec Board first. And then the F&A's only goal was to come back to council, including Infrastructure Committee, and just propose that we jointly look at what the office is recommending in conjunction with Rec Board for how we might want to reshape the mission and the function. But we're not at all dancing with who reports to what committee or anything like that.
I think there's even a broader question, which is how do each of the boards and commissions liaise with council? And in the past, when we had 7 committees, there was sort of a breakdown relationship between committees and boards and commissions. So, for example, Civil Service Commission always reported to public safety. Planning Commission reported to building and zoning. Those are sort of natural fits. Rec Board reported to property and worked with property. So there's kind of a need for, I think, maybe it's a higher level analysis by the president of council to look at how he thinks those relationships should work, and then the committees then individually to think through, what do we need from our volunteer network of volunteer government here, and what tasks are on board for 2019, and then have that discussion. So it's actually some feasibility to do prior to discussing it more.
I agree, and I'm going to need all of your advice, so I will be reaching out to you over the next few weeks to get this locked in. Go ahead.
When we had this discussion about shorting, with Council President and myself, had the conversation about, and with Sean, eliminating so many committees and going down to 3, the expectation, I think in our conversation was to say that there's going to be a lot more cross-sharing of information. It's easier to say, can you take a look at this part of or all of what we're proposing in public safety, as we did with financing. You know, we're looking for a recommendation here from your side, and it kind of was to focus in on the parts that each of us had as committees in expertise of maybe building and zoning, maybe, you know, economic. And so some of those pieces that would come together just sort of naturally that would be shared across as they were in 2014. Thank you.
I guess if I could, so I just have two things to I think the global issue I hadn't even thought about, but you're right. That's a wholly separate issue, and that's a bigger question. I guess the one thing I would like council's blessing on in the interim is, would you mind if we just have F&A just sit on now, Sean and the office working with Rec Board to fine tune their mission, but not get into where, you know, that's the only focus, a narrow focus. And really it's just going to consist of the staff talking with Rec Board, and we'll just facilitate them coming back to council together, whether it be in March or July or before or after the global issue. But I would like to see Rec Board in the office start to talk, just to see what comes of it. That's really the only. This is in its infancy.
Yeah, well, the whole new committee structure, certainly it's in an infancy,
Right.
so we're all figuring out how to do this. For example, I know that the staff is working closely with Rec Board already, you know, in that Director Harmon attended all of those meetings, and in fact, I believe they will be reviewing Sabine Avenue issues at their next meeting with the staff. So I guess I'm not exactly clear what you're asking.
Yeah, so, okay.
Not yes about.
Yeah, so
it all sounds fine.
Yeah. Sean had told me towards the end of last year that he would like to, that while Ed has been working with Rec Board, that Sean has not had a chance yet to spend a lot of time with Rec Board. And I've heard from talking with different members of Rec Board presently and over the years that there is no clear, I like to use the word charter, but you can use whatever word you want. There's no document present that says what Rec Board should or shouldn't do, and we have new faces on Rec Board, and Sean hasn't dealt with Rec Board. So I guess my hope was to really distill it down, my hope was to have Sean at some point this winter or spring sit down with Rec Board himself and F&A would just facilitate them coming back to council to tell us what they think they could do better to work together and possibly develop some kind of mission statement for, like, I don't know what we want to call it, but just a list of things that Rec Board should be working on.
I think that sounds good.
A charge, yeah. Right. But that's we just want them to talk. Yeah,
I think we'll be able to get
I guess I'm just suggesting that the horse go before the cart, is just to say, figure out which committee is going to be working with which commission, then have that board and commission work out the charge.
It's very likely.
It's just a.
Yeah, we don't have to. If you want to take this away,
it's very likely that we will have this figured out by the time we meet in March. So I feel like, but have a call, have a conversation. It's all going to come together at the same time. This is not that complicated.
I think it'll reach the same outcome no matter what.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I like it.
Anything else under F&A?
That's all, unless anyone has any questions about the budget or anything at the present.
All right, public safety?
Public safety. We had no action items, and we were the first to meet under the new structure. So we kind of we were watching the presentation Sean was giving us about how things are going to move forward and in what order, if any, that would be presented from his side, and of course that we would agree or disagree or whatever and move items forward. We're going to have a conversation, Sean and I, tomorrow, hopefully, if he has time, to talk about what he'd like to put forward in the agenda in that conversation. I do want to note that on Monday, Mr. Metrick, myself, and the mayor met to have a conversation regarding best practices and policies going forward as far as purchasing, and that's still in a conversation, and we'll talk more about that in public safety, which is next week at next Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning, right here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, infrastructure, Windsor Avenue. Let's start there.
Infrastructure had our first meeting. Councilperson Rickards, Councilperson Pananopoulos, and myself met with Borough Manager Sean Metrick and the Public Works Director Ed Harmon. In this room, we meet on the third Friday at 8 a.m. of each month. And we'll do that again in February, third Friday of the month. We discussed a variety of issues. It was really encouraging to learn from the manager and the director of Public Works, all of the improvement plans that they have kind of cooking already, things that we may never need to discuss, but things like sign revitalization, just a tremendous amount of maintenance and upkeep going on all over the borough with a new program for the maintenance and repair and upkeep and preventative maintenance schedule for the playground equipment, something that's kind of new. And that's all really wonderful to hear about, and I know the committee is appreciative of everything that the Public Works group is doing. There were 4 issues that the Infrastructure Committee asked the borough manager to bring to the council today. Those are on the agenda, and I'm going to ask Mr. Metrick to walk us through each of those 4 issues.
Okay, great, thank you. The first one is an announcement to the community and everyone connected to council members and appointed officials that on Monday, February 25th at 6:30 p.m. in the Municipal Auditorium, our traffic engineering team from McMahon Associates is going to lead a conversation and an investigation of Windsor Avenue. They want to hear from everyone who lives in the borough, uses Windsor Avenue, whether you drive a car, ride a bike, walk across the street, go to the library, go to the park, take the school bus, pick your kids up, drop them off, all those different ways that Windsor Avenue gets used. They want to hear about it because they're going to bake in that information to their design recommendations that they'll make to council. This is the phase 1 of the evaluation of the roadway. So put that on your calendars. Let's start marketing that, and let's get the word out. Let's get as many people out there as we can.
Sean, what time is that at again? 6 p.m.?
Monday, February 25th at 6:30.
6:30.
Aaron, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Ed.
Sean, somebody in the community asked if, when the borough decides what they would like on Windsor Avenue, what control do we have with that as opposed to PennDOT? Like, can PennDOT say we can or can't do something?
We have to design, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, you have to design roadways to certain standards. So you can't turn Windsor Avenue into a 7-foot wide roadway and expect cars to go down it. But other than that, it's a local road. So really, we have ownership jurisdiction over how it's designed, how it's used, which way traffic flows, where the traffic control measures are, what traffic control measures to a point that we use.
Or even if we want traffic at all.
You can't put a stoplight in, correct, without PennDOT's involvement. Street calming, everything's really on the, traffic calming, excuse me, everything is really on the table because it's a local street. We own it, we maintain it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Bob, the second thing that we wanted to talk about is kind of a conversation I wanted council to have, and the office and council needs to kind of point the ship in the direction and make a decision about this. And it's not an action, it's more of a what do you want to do from here. In 2015, the borough contracted with a consultant, Todd Bressy, whom you might know, who also, in the many hats he wears, is a public art consultant. And he designed a request for proposals for artists to design submissions to the borough to design and fabricate cast stone panels that would be installed on our finished Narberth Avenue Bridge, roughly in dimension of 3 foot by 40 feet long. At that time, council reviewed those many applicants, which are in this folder, and chose 3 finalists. A contract was drafted to pay each one of these finalists $1,000 to further investigate their design, mock up a more detailed idea of what they wanted to do on the bridge in some format, and give the borough a cost estimate for what the actual full-size thing would cost to fabricate. And each artist was to be paid $1,000 for this effort. And there would be an open house where these artists would discuss their designs, and the borough would then make a decision which one to move forward with. Those steps weren't taken in 2015. We have 3 artists who are on the hook who signed their agreements, but they weren't ever countersigned by the borough. Since that time, the idea of putting art on the bridge has kind of languished because we focused more on getting the bridge built. And that's coming slowly but surely. But we're at a point now where it is the appropriate point in time to have this conversation about whether or not the art is going to be designed, fabricated, and installed. So our design team with Pannoni, it's not Eric, but it's someone else from his office, is coordinated with Todd and VSBA architects, who are also retained to give the bridge its aesthetic treatments. On the feasibility of the artwork, PennDOT has allocated up to $35,000 for the construction of this cast stone panel, but right now we don't know what it's going to cost once it's fabricated and built. I've heard numbers as low as $35,000 and as high as $90,000. So I'm not going to represent any sure number in that range, just know that we don't know, and it's probably higher than that. So the question to council is, do you want to continue down this investigation, this path with these three finalists? And I don't know yet if all three finalists are, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been almost 4 years. I don't know if they're still, I'm sure they're still making art, but I don't know if they're still available to investigate this further. The question for council is, do you want to commit this $3,000 to investigate this project further or not? Do we just let it go at this
I have a
time?
thought, I'm having a thought about this. Say, before we discuss it any further, can we have Mr. Bressy find out if the three finalists are still ready, willing, and able?
Right.
And if they are, then we talk about this at the table. I think it's important to recognize that the way the architect designed the bridge is kind of like with these blank, they're concave. They're inset.
Yeah.
And so there's a kind of depression in the concrete, which is where the art would go. So there could be nothing there, and the bridge would still look complete, or there would be concrete panels, it'll still look complete. But I think the discussion would be different if we knew if the artists were ready, willing, and able. Maybe perhaps.
Well, there was also another option that we discussed, was returning to the architect and saying, okay, if we don't do the option, is there another version that would be really aesthetically pleasing that you could present to us as well? So, I would almost see that as a first ask. And if the answer is no, then ask to engage the artist.
Could I always ask the architect, what could you do for $35,000?
Right.
Both questions could be asked. And I was there and I voted on this. You and I saw all those presentations, as did you, sir. And so my favorite uncle was an engineer and designed bridges. Anybody can put a bridge up. Look at Lower Merion. Sorry, neighbors. Look at their bridges. Look what they put up. Great. It's like everything else you've ever seen. I supported the project for art. I supported the project to be beautiful, and the words I used was to give us the best, most beautiful bridge where people go, Narberth has this really great bridge. That didn't come with the phrase, at any cost. It did come with the phrase, get us the best, most beautiful pieces that we can put on this bridge. We have one bridge. And aesthetically pleasing, I think, is something that would go a long way with the residents within a budgetary
Why don't we ask both questions? Why don't we follow up with the architect? And why don't we see if these artists are still available? And then we don't have to harangue if options are taken off the table for us. Okay.
So we'll postpone when the options will almost certainly be somewhat more narrow in scope.
Hopefully.
That's a good idea.
We'll have the answer.
So the third item is the bike infrastructure grant proposal, which Mr. Metric can detail for the committee. He wants to detail it for council because we have some discussion that we need to have with council about decision points here.
What we developed was a scope of the grant proposal, so locations of bike racks, fix-it station, meter hitches, location of signage in the kiosk. I guess I'm going through the components of the project right now. A commitment from the traffic engineer as part of Windsor Avenue to investigate bike and pedestrian facilities and the installation of the same, which we have a fairly good estimate from now from the traffic engineer, as well as the inclusion of a drinking water fountain in our downtown station circle area. So I've updated the budget, and the total project cost at this point is $46,125. The borough would be matching this project with $3,640 of in-kind labor to install the meter hitches. We're estimating a 2-person crew, and you've parsed out how much time we think it's going to install each of these items. And then $5,585 of cash, which $3,000 of which we were already spending on the traffic study on Windsor Avenue. So cash and in-kind labor is a total of 20% of the overall project total, $9,225, and the total grant request is $36,900. On this singular map is some of the parking meters that I've circled, which the hitches would be attached to, and locations of the bike racks. I only have one copy of the map to circulate around. So we've talked about this in committee at greater detail. Is there any hanging detail that we didn't kind of we need to put a bow on with all of council? What I wanted really everyone on council to be aware of is the total project cost. That when you get this resolution in front of you in 2 weeks to vote on, it comes with a price tag. It comes with an unbudgeted allocation of, another $2,500, roughly $2,600 that we didn't budget for this improvement.
Okay. Real quick, the water fountain in the downtown, does it have one for dogs?
Yeah, we did pick
It's the bottle filler, right? Bottle filling?
What was the clever phrase you used, Ed? No.
Bottle filler, ADA with a dog.
No, it's not great that. It was like
Only kind of water fountains are ever approved. Dogs, is it green?
Yes, the whole, it's the
And I guess
whole
I
enchilada.
would add that, the question, if we were to be asked the question, would we be willing to spend out of our funds $2,500 to repair the water fountain in the station circle, which actually is not functioning, hasn't functioned for years? Is that something that as a community we could justify as an expense?
$2,500?
Yeah,
Yes.
to repair the water fountain in the center of town. I think that's kind of what we're talking about, and we're going to get all this extra bike infrastructure
was trying to have this hat on
as a
for a year.
bonus.
For a year, we've been trying to have it.
That's just one way to think
Thank
about
you.
it. And I want to thank you, Sean, for including the water fountain in this iteration of the proposal, because that kind of gives. I think that's something that everyone, and I mean, universally, I think people want water, and it gives us fresh water, and it gives us a kind of a watering hole in the center of town, which is just a wonderful place-making thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
And not to belabor this, but also I was not aware that our volunteer gardeners are currently getting water on the south side and walking under to water the flowers on the north side. For $2,500, we get dogs, bikers, walkers who want to reduce plastic, and our gardeners. I love it.
If we get the grant.
If we get the grant.
If we get the grant, of course.
Sure.
Is there more?
I have a question about the map. What's the future bike F that's highlighted all over?
Future bike routes.
It's an R, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we overlaid the
serial
bike
killer.
routes from the various studies that have been done. And those might be streets, Jim, that in the future, if there was another round of implementation, whether we go through grant or we do it out of the capital program or a combination of the two, we'd be looking at those streets in the next phases, because those have already been identified.
Looked at like for what?
On street,
Like the same kind of equipment that this would involve?
the same kind of treatment that Windsor Avenue is going to get. We'll have some options with Windsor Avenue. Maybe we decide to paint bike sharrows, which are just pavement markings that show where a bike should go. Maybe we decide to have a dedicated bike lane on some portion of Windsor Avenue, maybe some combination of the three, and signage along Windsor Avenue telling you where you're going and where the next thing on the route is and where our downtown is.
Well, this is just like, what is this?
These are the roads that actually have been identified by the regional bikers that connect to the other circuit trails. So Narberth is kind of a missing piece to connect us to the ballast.
But like, who drafted this?
So that dates back to 2004 or 5 or 6, and it was done by a regional. I think it was done by a regional group.
Like this, I'm just trying. I just want to understand.
Who drew
this? Thank you. Can I just? Yeah, I don't want. It's the lawyer in me. Where did you get the information that you put on this map?
From our own GIS and from a collection of open space and bike
Multiple
plans.
sources,
Parking study, yeah.
But outside of the drawings here, the future, that's just this isn't something that's part of an official plan, this is just an idea?
It is. It's the
what plan?
It would be Narberth fulfilling their portion of the regional plan.
And the regional plan was drafted by?
County.
The county, and it was also by,
2006
I
or
remember.
something.
I would like to look at it, I'd like to know what I'm doing.
I'll show you the book. I have it at home.
It's very legitimate.
Yeah, so that's all, just if someone could send that to me, I wanted to understand what I'm looking at.
It's all in our SharePoint, actually. It's what Kimberly presented in December's or January's Public Works meeting. She presented the 2006 Narberth plan that she found.
The bike Narberth plan.
The bike Narberth plan, and then she also included the regional Montgomery plan, and that's all in our Public Works SharePoint.
Okay.
Well, if that still exists.
It's there.
It's archived. It is archived. It's archived.
So it's
Looking at government documents don't go away.
I just, when I'm looking at something, I like to know the source.
May I ask a question about the $2,500, $2,600?
Yeah.
That wouldn't then impact the CIP going forward, or would it? Would that $2,600 come out of?
It would have to come out of something.
Right, so would it come out of the CIP, and I think that's, a future
What do
project?
you mean amend the CIP?
Yeah, right, that's what I'm talking about. Amending the CIP, is that what we'd be looking at? Would something else then be $2,600 short? Or, I'm just trying to figure out where it comes from, what pot of money we think it might be coming from.
It's a fair question. I think it, who's got the budget? I have the budget.
I hope so.
The borough match is coming from in-kind labor and from cash. Of the 5,500 change of cash, we were already spending 3,000 out of our general fund. And that's a portion of the design and engineering fees that we're paying McMahon to do the project on Windsor Avenue. So we decided that about a quarter of the dollars we're spending McMahon are going to be really focused on bike and ped ideas. And that was just a decision John and I made and ran it by the county on, who agreed with it. So the question is, where does that other 2585 come from? Probably general fund. Keep it simple.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So the fourth item is 201 Sabine Avenue Park and Campus Capital Improvements.
Yeah. Sean, again.
Thank you, just give me a second.
Just needs a moment.
Okay, fine.
Cheat sheet.
Can I ask another? What do the numbers mean again on here? 555, or maybe it's a 3. I don't know what that one is. There's an 8.
The number of bike racks in those locations.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Those are parking facilities that you can attach a bike on either side of.
Roger that.
So 5 would mean 10 bikes can park there? Okay.
Cool. All right.
Okay. 201 Sabine.
This is more informational update, something we talked a little, we touched a little bit on these ideas earlier this evening. There are 5 things happening at the same time having to do with the campus. We are looking at the way that the street is designed. Which way does the traffic flow? What is parking on both sides of the street? Where do families pick up and drop off their kids? Where is the ADA access? So our traffic engineer did some observations last summer, drafted up a report, short, 3-page report, and we gave them some feedback on some recommendations we'd like to see in the final version of that. One of that was, for instance, they were talking traffic calming would be a really great idea for that block of Sabine, and they proposed some bump outs in the streets, and we told them that's probably not a good idea, because to get buy-in on a street that's heavily parked, at least on one side of it, let's not lose any of our own street parking. Let's think about some other traffic calming treatments like speed bumps or painting or other things that won't take away parking spaces. So that final letter is being drafted and handed to us. It's going to tell us where our ADA access to the campus will be. And just so you know, one of the leases Borough did sign with the tenant at 201 does require that we make good on that ADA access. So that's going to be some concrete work to install a ramp. We'll paint a pretty good section of the curb blue. We'll sign it and enforce it if anyone parks there who doesn't have a placard. So what is today the handicap parking zone will basically be part of a very large pickup and drop-off area. What we really want to stop seeing is there are parents and guardians arriving on the street and parking on the south side of the street and taking kids across the lane of travel into an MELC. So we observe that a lot. We don't want to see that happen. I've made John aware of that too. So that's other kinds of conversations that just happen organically between me and the police chief. As you know, this council authorized a contract with KCBA last year. That's the architect team that did our facilities and grounds assessment to guide a long-term plan for Sabine and Narberth Parks. I expect the Sabine Park plan to go through a final iteration with the rec board, with the consultant, and then arrive at this table for vote and approval before we then can go out and spend dollars in our capital program to upgrade equipment. And I encourage too the rec board to think big. Think about what really needs to happen on this park on a big scale, and make bold plans. That's something I learned a long time ago. Make sure your plans are bold. You may not get there right away. It's good to have things that are phased. It's good to look at the thing you really want, make it as beautiful and as well designed as you can, and work your way towards that. So that's my feedback to the rec board, and we'll be working with them and Ed Mangold and Ed Harmon on how the park plan will adjust. And why is the park plan adjusting? Well, borough staff and the borough engineer and the director of public works and the assistant manager, we worked with our borough engineer who's here, Eric, on a parking lot design. There's currently a 133 space parking lot up there. We worked with the borough engineer. We know from our parking study we don't need 133 spaces up there. The maximum number of spaces at peak time is around 58, between 58 and 60. So we looked at a design that would manage stormwater better, bring some green space into the parking area, reconfigure the lights, move the dumpster to a less used corner of the whole lot. And we think it's a really good parking lot plan, except for the fact that it's going to cost a lot more than we talked about spending in the CIP. So, you know, there's a phrase called going back to the drawing board for a reason. We're going to go back and look at this and see if there's any way we can deliver the project at the number that we've been authorized to spend in the CIP. Explore options, explore funding partners, parse out what can and can't be adjusted about this parking lot plan. But we took this parking lot plan that Pannoni, Eric, thank you. Eric did a great job, by the way. Eric, with this parking lot plan was kind of languishing for a little while, and then we went through about 6 or 7 iterations in a very short amount of time. So thank you, I really appreciate that. That was a good job. So we asked Ed Mangold at KCBA to take the parking lot plan and fit it together like a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle with the Sabine Park plan, which is what's shown on this drawing here, which we're going to talk more about this. You're going to see more of this imagery. You're going to get an opportunity to understand what this plan all means, what the details mean. We just got an email I saw 5:45 this evening from Ed Mangold giving us a breakdown of what elements are in the park, to help somebody like me who hasn't been in on the ground floor of its development understand what the different features are that are being suggested. 2 more to go. We are doing a lot of concrete. We have a lot of concrete work planned for the campus area just because it's broken. There's a lot of tripping hazards. We want to get out and replace the wooden ADA ramp that's in the courtyard area. That's long overdue. The aforementioned handicap access has to be put in. We think there's about $20,000 to $25,000 of concrete work in the whole campus to do to just fix and maintain what's there and reduce liability for the borough, excuse me. And what we do know at this point is that it makes the most sense for this to bid that together with the parking lot, because the same kinds of contractors can do both kinds of work. So right there, you're saving mobilization by bringing one crew out to do both things. Last but not least, surely, is the oft-talked about roof repairs. It is our biggest item after the fire engine that was purchased last year for the borough to consider. We've known about this repair, for a while. You don't have to be an expert on roofs to know that something needs to be done by looking at it. And things seem to be going along properly, as far as I know, with Ed Mangold and the development of the RFP. What he is working on developing is the design detail for the new design of the roof eaves, which is going to be a reconfiguring of the gull-wing roof eaves down to a more normal, what you see on most homes, which is just a simple eave cross-section with conventional gutters. So once he's done with that steel work plan, that'll be baked into the RFP. The rest of the RFP is going to be real easy, because it's going to be replace the roof to these specs over the third-story classroom space, and we're also going to add in, there is some remaining work to be done on the entire roof system of the campus. The entire roof system is about 30,000 square feet. Don't quote me on that number. We have about 7,000 to 8,000 square feet to go to be able to apply a coating on top of it, which we've done over most of the campus, and it stops leaks, it stops water from getting in, and if it's sort of it's a Band-Aid treatment as long as the insulation and the decking underneath isn't wet. So the parts of our roofs that are still dry, we're going to apply the rest of this coating. We just never had enough money in 1 year to do it all. Last year we spent about $18,000 in roofing repairs to get another section covered, and we've been doing this now for 3 years in a row. So we're going to bake in the last final sections to have this treatment. I think price-wise it should be coming in at about $2 to $3 a square foot. It's a simple process where a product shows up, they haul it up on the roof, they apply it down with a torch, and it's done. So we've got a lot of roof work to do. We're not going to do any of the roof work's going to happen first, because we're going to need a laydown area in the parking lot, this big, huge parking lot that we don't need 133 spaces of.
We need it right now.
But we're going to need it to stage roofing materials, having gone through it on this building a couple years ago. And we don't want to invest money in a parking lot and then have big equipment
Grind it up.
and you don't want heavy things driving on the parking lot, period, unless it's designed for that. So the point of all of that talking at you was just to let you know what's going on, kind of how I see things fitting together, what I think is going to happen next, what council's decision points will be in March and April, how things are going to get communicated back to the rec board.
Okay, thank you. There will be new items on our infrastructure agenda for the third Friday of next month at 8 a.m. And thank you, Mr. Metrick, for everything you're doing. And we have nothing, unless the other council persons who are on the committee have something they want to add. Nothing, so
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. Let's move to public comment. Any member of the public who would like to make a comment on any matter, now is your time. Ms. Fortner.
Hi.
State your name and address for the
Yes.
record.
Barbara Fortner, 415 Conway. I'd just like to read to you the email that I sent you all on Monday. Excuse me. I saw in the December 2018 engineers report that this parking plan for 201 Sabine had been put into place, or undertaken, planning for it. And, excuse me, I was surprised to see that, because I don't recall that ever being discussed at the table before. And my feeling is that before you spend any more additional resources towards this, or anything else at Sabine, that you discuss in public your criteria that you're going to use to judge the necessity and worthiness of these investments, especially given that we don't have a long-term plan yet for this property. So, excuse me, I really think that only investments for public health and safety reasons should be made at this time. So I would encourage you to take that into consideration, and I look forward to hearing the long-term plan soon. Excuse me.
Thank you. Hope you're all right. Anyone else? Mr. Bush?
Sure. So, speaking on behalf of Rec Board, we were told when we were working on this process with Ed Mangold that we need to be focused on very immediate concerns and very kind of short-term projects and small-scale projects. So, I'm hearing now that we should be thinking big, but we were explicitly told when this happened that we should be thinking small and we should be thinking something that can be immediately done. So I think that I had a strong reaction on seeing some of these parking lot plans because they were much more intense than the project we thought we were working on, which was a relatively small-scale project. We do have ideas for what could happen to this space, but they're not really reflected in these images because that's not what we were told we should be working on at the time. So I look forward to talking more about this when Ed Mangold finishes his presentation. It sounds like it's going to come up again at the next infrastructure meeting, so I hope to be there. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing no other comments, I'll close public comment. We'll move to action item 9A. Do we have any applicants?
We have one,
Nobody's got it.
no, just joking on the word. One administrative appointment to make. We had a member of the EAC who we appointed for 90 days.
Oh, yes, okay.
That's Tom Henry.
All right.
If we can just, what happened was he ended up getting, because we created the EAC mid-year, and it was it really is supposed to have members that serve a 3-year term each, with a term being up each year. So at the outset, we had to create it with terms of 3 years, 2 years, and 1 year. And then since we created it mid-year, Tom ended up getting a 2 or 3 month appointment. And I think I recall that we all thought that if he was still interested that we would reappoint him. That got lost in the shuffle, and he has graciously requested reappointment. So President Mutrick, I move that we reappoint Tom Henry to the Environmental Advisory Committee for a full term of 3 years.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Thank you.
And then do we know where we're at on library board and civil service alternates? I'm sorry, did I jump ahead?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't know where.
No applicants for civil service. No applicants for UCC Board of Appeals. We're still got to get the word out. But we did determine that the library board did not appoint anybody from that list. There was that question of whether one of those persons that had applied for the two council positions was appointed by library board. She has not been appointed. So there are 2 spots council can appoint to library board, and there are 3 candidates. There's
Okay, that's different than what I was told.
Who are the candidates?
Okay, speak up. What were you told?
Oh, okay. No, I was the one that I think started this issue. I had heard that Ellen was, confirmed that Linda, she was appointed by the library board.
So you talked to Linda.
Okay, so then there you have it. She
Okay.
would know.
But that's separate. I think what maybe Ellen meant that was a separate appointment from what council is allowed to appoint, so that.
We still have 2 appointments.
The council has 2 appointments.
The question was, who is still in the game?
Right.
Because Ellen might have been appointed by the library board
by the library, then they said no, then they said
With 3 applicants, 2
Right,
spots.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, do you know the names? It was Ellen Trachtenberg.
Ms. Sussman and Mr. Lonsdorf.
Right. So, we can choose to appoint. We can.
I would move that we appoint Marla Sussman to the library board.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All
No.
in favor?
All in favor?
Aye. Congratulations, Ms. Sussman.
And I'm sorry, and who were the?
Ellen Trachtenberg. and-
I would like to move that we appoint Ellen Trachtenberg.
There you go.
I think I second that.
Second. Any discussion?
She knows her books.
She has books, there's no denying it.
So there's a little conflict of interest there, selling loan.
It's a circular industry.
I'm teasing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Ms. Bradford. All right, we encourage applicants for Civil Service Commission. It's fascinating, much more than you think.
We also have an opening in the shade tree.
We have an opening on the Shade Tree Commission. Diggers as well as planners and strategizers.
That's right.
Lovers of trees in any capacity. And the last one, just to state
UCC appeals.
the UCC Appeals Board. It's another interesting one. It's a whole world in there. So please apply.
Are there regulations around the UCC of who can apply? No.
So,
Citizens.
Just saying.
Yes.
I think it would make most sense for someone who's in the trades.
Yes, of course.
Because it,
Sure,
having
absolutely.
gone
For an
through the
architect.
process of.
An architect, some engineering background, maybe, things like that. Right.
Builder.
Planning, builders, yeah, sure.
It gets into the weeds, and you have to interpret the UCC. And so, design professionals, contractors, those who are familiar with UCC.
Yeah, but given that we have an opening and no applicants, we will consider all. This is a country founded by amateurs. You never know.
And currently run by amateurs. Thank you.
You don't need to be a member of the bar to be on the Supreme Court, do you? No, you do.
No, you don't.
Thank you.
Welcome to the jungle.
All right, that's number 9. Any informational announcements?
I have
Any
one.
call-outs? Yes, sir.
So, as many people may know, we have municipal elections, and there's currently 5 declared candidates running in the Democratic primary. The Democratic Committee of Lower Merion and Narberth is currently considering the endorsement or not of candidates, and there is a candidate forum here at Borough Hall. So that's the 5 Democratic candidates will be presenting here in the main room at the Democratic Committee of Lower Merion and Narberth. It's open to the public, and it will take place on Tuesday, February 19th at 7:30 p.m. And anyone who's interested, this is where councils are oftentimes shaped, given the registration numbers in town. So I encourage any interested members of the community to show up and see the candidates in action.
Thank you. All right.
Can I
Go ahead, Ms. Mayor.
One brief announcement. We have a lot of celebrations in the borough. We have Earth Day. We have other things. What we've never had, and what I am starting this year, is Narberth Day, the birthday of Narberth, our town. And we're going to combine that with the Civic Association's potluck. On Sunday, February 24th, will there be a potluck for the Civic Association and a celebration of Narberth's birthday. And there will be cake from 5 to 8 p.m. So come and join us and celebrate the founding of our town.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have some executive session business to attend to, and we may need to return to public session to possibly take formal action. So we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Council has been in session since 6:30, and we will come back into executive session, and hopefully it won't be too long. All right, I'm going to ask someone to make a motion and say some language, say it back to me.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, we are going to return to public session after a executive session to discuss a property matter. Would someone like to make a motion to approve a lease for 201 Sabine, subject to review and approval of the solicitor?
President Mutrick, I'd like to move that we approve a motion for a lease as discussed in exec for the 201 Sabine property, subject to the terms and approval provided by our borough solicitor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
We're out.
Favor?